Good evening and welcome to the Wednesday, June 16th edition of the Island Stat Sports Show. I'm your host, Earl Baston. Joining me as co-host Jason Juggling J. Ford. We are awaiting the members of the Bermuda Karting Club, and then we'll be discussing the latest information regarding the withdrawal of the invitation letter that the Somerset Cricket Club, and they actually released a statement around 6:25 this afternoon, and we'll get to that as well. I don't want to start that conversation, go into the karting, and then come back to that conversation. So, the karting guys are now looking as if they're making their way. We have Blake Horseman. Good evening, Blake.
How you doing, right?
Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Well, we'll get started with you. Obviously, Scott is having trouble getting on, but your season basically tag senior class champion, a stop-start season kind of thing. How did you manage to keep things together?
Well, it was quite nice. So in the tag class, I know they run two series. You got the national series as well as the trophy. I didn't do the national series this year. I was focusing more on shifter because this was my first year. So I just took the tag out on the trophy race days, and surprisingly, I did very, very well. And that's just one of my favorite classes to race in, and I'm very confident in racing in it. So worked out good.
Yeah. Well, you also jumped in the shifter for the race days and finished second, so you got to be doing something right.
Yep. Hopefully next year, better. Hopefully next year.
Yeah. What got you started into karting?
Well, believe it or not, so in my neighborhood, there's actually quite a few of us that do race down the track. And anyway, I'm neighbors with Michael and Wendy Corrado, and their son, Stephen Corrado, races go-karts, or he was at the time anyway, told me to come down, and came down there and watched, and I just fell in love with watching it, and I ended up getting a kart, I think, at the age of 11 or 10, and just from there, it's been nothing but enjoyment.
Jay?
Well, welcome, Blake. Welcome. Karting. Now, I did dabble a little bit of this when I was very young, and those are the days when they're karting at the Naval Annex, I believe, up in August Point is, and at the time they had it at National Sports Club. You had to put the knobbies on. But no, just talking about karting, you see the resurgence, obviously, at the class, and especially the grassroots. But now, like you said, you got your first kart at 11. I don't want to say you're one of the older guys of the sport, but what is like now? Just giving back to some of the new, not even just young drivers, but new drivers. Because I've seen you guys the last couple of years have this recruitment of just coming down, just come down here, come down the track, and we'll put you in a car and just How have you guys been able to sell it to just new people to come to the sport?
Well, I know the club's been working on which are kid karts. So if a kid wanted to get involved and didn't want to actually go ahead and purchase a kart, they can go to pay a small fee, and it can actually race the season in a proper kart. And I mean, when I first came into karting, the club had rentals available. Obviously, not the type of cars like how we're racing right now. They were a little bit not beat up, but they're a little older, and that's how I got into it. I did a couple of not rental days, but rental karts, I should say. I did a few like that, and after that, spoke to my parents, and they agreed to get me a kart, and it was probably one of the best things that's happened to me in the past 10 to 15 years. So
now who's your mechanic? Because the mechanic is everything when it comes to karting.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, over the few years, I've had quite a few mechanics. When I first started off racing, I had Mikey Lopes. He was my mechanic for a few years because his son Ryan Lopes, actually, believe it or not, did a bit of racing. And they took a break, so then I went to race underneath Michael Corrado's camp. So I raced underneath there for a few years, and then for about a season or two, I decided to go out on my own and focus a little bit more on myself, and actually ended up having David Brewster. He actually tuned for me and actually helped me win my first tag senior championship. So he did that, and then my second year racing underneath him, we finished second, and I was going off to college the next year, so we kind of parted ways after that. So, and then now I'm back racing underneath Michael Corrado's camp now. Basically, I just finished school this past year, and I hadn't started working yet, so I couldn't quite afford to go all gun-ho race and tag this year. So fortunately, Corrado offered to let me drive his shifter this year. And obviously I just covered fuel and tires and whatnot. And yeah, this season I finished second in the tag class. And I think on the last trophy race day, I got 2 seconds and a first. If I would have beat Ryan in one of those races, I would have beat by 1 point, I think.
Wow.
But it is. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot this year, and it was just a learning curve for me. You know?
Yeah. Well, we're going to bring in Scott Barnes. Scott, welcome.
What's up, guys?
It's been a long season, but you managed to do several things, especially in the trophy race days. You won the senior class. You also took part in the tag senior. You're quite busy jumping in and out of shifter as well. Managing all of that, how do you do it?
Years of experience. No shifter class for me this year. I took a year off the shifters. Concentrated on the 206 and let Blake and Ryan battle it out in the shifters with Georgia. So just did the 206 this year and the tag. It's years of experience.
Blake was throwing out the challenge like why? He was afraid of him. You knew he had the card.
You got to know when to hold him and know when to fold him, right? So I know my mate Ryan Rebello was been wanting to win a championship for a while, so I had to throw him a bone.
Yeah, I see you got. Is that Jeff next to you?
It's my VP Jeff Souza. Yep.
Yeah, Jeff, you guys kind of have a big challenge on your hands because you also race, and you are the president and vice president of the class. Now, how difficult is it on race day to separate yourselves from being a racer to administrator? Because there's going to be things that you might be involved in the race that you need administrative or administrators to deal with.
Usually what happens is we kind of leave that hat of being committee members in the trailer because we have a race director. So he's pretty much like God on Sunday. So he's the one that oversees the races as we go out there on the track. So if an incident does happen, and being that we are racers, we kind of step aside and let him do his job. In a sense, if there's disciplinary things or an incident on the track, we kind of separate ourselves away from if we are involved in that incident. That's basically how we do. We allow Ed Cook was our race director this season.
Right.
We allow him to just basically, he's in charge and whatever he says goes, you know what I mean? So that's kind of how we circumnavigate taking one hat off and putting the helmet on. That's kind of how we do it.
Now, Jay, you asked Blake about mechanics, but you often see these guys, they'll finish a race and the suit comes down round the waist and they're right in the cart looking at things because they're out there, they'll feel it and they'll know what they want to try to adjust. How do you guys communicate what you're feeling with the mechanics? Now, I have to say that sometimes I'm there and the mechanic will be standing there saying, he's got this problem, he's got that problem. Just by hearing, just by seeing, but how do you guys communicate with your mechanics when there's issues with the car?
I mean, to me, it's just a matter of knowing your mechanic and your mechanic knowing you, knowing your driving style, what you like. Being lucky enough to have a tuner and a mechanic that knows you, knows how you like your cart. So, I mean, for me, I'm very fortunate enough over the years that I've had tuners that can understand when I come in and say, "Hey, I need this, this, and this." They know exactly what to do to the cart. So I think that's just a luck thing of being able to have a mechanic that works well with you, right? And that takes years to have that bond with your mechanic for you guys to work together on and off the track. You know, I know what I want on the track. I have to come in and tell him what I need off the track. And that's just like I said, it's just a matter of finding that right person and being able to communicate that to him.
Mm. Jay?
Just to piggyback on that, two-part question. We've been living, obviously, last year and a half with this pandemic as COVID protocols, restrictions, obviously, has affected every sport we can think of. But one question as far as the track time, because you're talking about relaying information from driver to mechanic. How has COVID, as far as get on the track to get track time, training or practicing? And also, we're talking about motorsports, very expensive sports. Sponsorship during these times. How has COVID affected not only your track time and protocol at the track, but also your sponsorship in your cards to actually race?
Jake, you want to take that one? Or Blake, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, as far as like COVID impacting racing, I think the biggest impact it's had has definitely been the long periods of time that we raced. Like we had a period, I think it was, I want to say February. Am I right, Scott? Around February, did we stop?
We stopped in December, actually. Yeah.
December.
Yeah,
December.
and we went a few months without racing, and it was kind of frustrating because I was just starting to get into the groove of things, and that got put on pause for a few months. So as far as developing and racing and consistency goes, that's what I think had the biggest impact. And obviously, I mean, Scott and Jeff could talk a lot more about it. But
Yeah, I mean, we got pretty lucky during the pandemic because our track down there at Rubis Southside Raceway stayed open 6 days a week for us to practice. Obviously, we were limited to the amount of people that were able to go down there, but it stayed open pretty much. You know, besides the actual stay-at-home orders, we were able to go down there and practice if we wanted to. So, I mean, obviously, practice is different than a race day. But we got pretty lucky with the pandemic that we were still able to do some of our sport during practice.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, it made it when we were able to kind of go back to racing, we were kind of progressive in thinking about splitting the club, and that's how we were able to do it: 25 people in the morning, 25 in the afternoon. So while the track was still open through the week, that people could go down there as long as it wasn't over a certain amount of people. And pretty much every camp stayed to themselves anyway that were able to go down to the track. The race day is what made it kind of interesting, Jason, because you didn't have that amount of time like we used to have before, like my class, and then there would be 4 other classes after that before we went to race again. So you had some time there to make adjustments. Whereas when we went into the split because of COVID, then you kind of basically you were limited on the amount of time you had to work on your card, make adjustments. Those that had a mechanic to say, hey, listen, I'm feeling this, we need to do this. So you actually kind of had to do it in quick time. So it was kind of a good thing for us to actually, well, at least I could speak for myself, kind of like, get on with it. Let's make the adjustment before our next heat, because it was a lot smaller of a race day. You know what I mean?
Basically, fitness levels too, because whereas before, like how you said, Jeff, we'd have 4 or 5 classes in between. whereas now we'd have maybe only one or two. So you were constantly going. And it was proven some drivers, by the time the third heat came, had kind of fallen off a bit. And that's where a little bit of fitness came into play.
Sure.
And what about the financial side for the sponsorships?
Well, I mean, we've been lucky over the last 4 years to have Rubis as our main sponsor. Their contract just came up with us last month, so they're actually finished with us. We're in the talks right now to see if they're going to stay on for another 2 years, but we've been very lucky to have them on board through the last 4 years and to stick with us through the COVID times. We appreciate everything that Rubis has done for us. They've given us a lot of money over the last 4 years, and we definitely couldn't do a lot of what we do without Rubis. So we're grateful for them. We did have a couple sponsors come on to sponsor our trophy days. So yeah, it worked out. We were able to pick up, a couple of sponsors for that. So luckily we have those people that came on.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll have more with the Bermuda Karting Club. We'll be right back.
We're welcoming back the often featured Whole Food veterans Bragg Live Food products, renowned for their live probiotic organic raw cider vinegar and savory seasonings. Paul Bragg is the man behind the products that has originated health food stores, restaurants, and spas, and promoted nutrition education through the media, helping lay the foundation for the enlightened way we make healthful choices when we shop for and prepare food. This month we're featuring Bragg Organic Raw and Unfiltered Apple Cider Vinegar and Organic Extra Virgin Olive Oil. Lindos, why go anyplace else?
And welcome back. Scott, it's one of those things where you're very active within the club. You're in the leadership position. We speak often when you do go overseas and so forth, but the ambition of trying to get drivers to come to Bermuda. I know guys have their own carts and all of that, but where are we with kind of that? I know we always want to go to competitions, but it's also nice to have people come down and experience our track. Are we near something of that nature?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're very close. 2 years ago, David Barboza started a rental program, which has gone off really good over the last 2 years. Unfortunately, with COVID, the last year and a half, it's kind of restricted what we can do. But my goal is to definitely have more international drivers coming down. I know our goal is to have a street race next season. We were in talks with Corporation to have one this season. Obviously, COVID stopped it. But our goal as a club is to definitely have a street race sometime next season, which I can almost guarantee we'll have a handful of international drivers down for that if it happens, when it happens. But also trying to get a couple international drivers down throughout our season is my goal for this season coming up. I've been lucky enough to make friends with enough guys out there, and now that we have rental carts here to make it possible for these guys to just come down and jump in our carts, I think it'll be very, very likely that we'll see some international drivers coming down next season for sure.
Now, you guys have, I believe, you have 4 street courses that you've utilized over the last maybe 10 years. 2 in Hamilton, one the Front Street one, the one the back of town, St. George, and Dockyard.
Yeah, we've never done the back of town Hamilton, and that's what we're lining up to do next season. Didn't you do
one around by BIU?
We had a fun day. We had a fun day in the rental carts.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to line up for next season around Northeast Hamilton. So, like I said, we're in talks with Corporation Hamilton. They're on board. Like I said, now that COVID seems to be subsiding, hopefully we can make that happen next season.
The residents of the area are definitely on board. Let me tell you, they're gung-ho for it. The businesses around there are gung-ho for it. It's just, again, with COVID, with the regulations, we just have to find that right time to be able to do it.
I was gonna ask, which one would you consider being the most favorite of the courses that you've done thus far?
Well, I mean, to me as a racer, personally, Dockyard was fun. It was the smallest track, but I think for the spectators, Dockyard was the funnest because it was constant action going around the track. It was so small. Front Street, you can't. That's like the Monaco of Bermuda, right?
Yeah.
You're on the water side. It's the atmosphere is awesome. But I think if we can pull off this Court Street race, I think to me that's going to be the favorite. The track is the biggest that we'll have for a street race. I think the atmosphere being around Northeast Hamilton will be great. So I'm looking forward to trying to make that race happen.
Has there been any talks with the with Medco to possibly set up a track on Cross Island?
There was actually 2 years ago. We actually tested there on a day and went out there, and there's definitely a possibility to have a track there. I think we're going to concentrate on trying to get Court Street first and then go from there, because these street races cost us, to put a street race cost an average of over $50,000. So our main thing is finding sponsors for these races, which is huge for us. We can't do it without sponsors. So right now, one street race at a time. We'll concentrate on Court Street. If we can pull that off, we'll definitely look at Cross Island and go from there.
Jay?
Well, I can't wait for either one of these street races, and even from the last time that you guys did these street races, as my mate Jeff would know, media will play a major role in your next races coming up. Whether it's being streamed, whether it's being broadcast, whether it's so many opportunities not only for sponsors to get their name and the value out of their products, but also for our young drivers and also aspiring drivers who want to drive internationally. I think that hopefully that component of these races are being looked at, because the more we're being exposed as far as our drivers, it can be better competition. And also for the foreign drivers who do want to come here, but who probably wasn't planning on coming to Bermuda. They see the race, they see the vibe, they see the people around Northeast Hamilton say, yeah, I got to be there for that. I just hoping that these talks coming up, that is that component in there.
Definitely. And the last couple of street races that we've done in Dockyard and Front Street, we've had a couple of international people down for them. We've had, 2 international drivers and a couple of international mechanics and scoring people to help us out. And they love it. They love being in Bermuda, doing our street races. And, I talk to people every time I go away and tell them, hey, there's a possibility that Bermuda's going to have a street race. And all the drivers are, definitely want to come and experience that. So, like I said, the possibility of having international drivers for the next one is huge. Getting the coverage live streamed is definitely a possibility and something we're looking into.
Blake, what are you more comfortable with? Are you one of those on track guys comfortable, or on the road comfortable?
Well, I haven't done enough street races to really, I guess you could say, know what I'm better at. I've only done, I think I've done two or three street races. It's either I've done 1 or 2 Dockyards and then 1 in Hamilton. As long as I can race and I've got good competition, that's what I like the most about it. So if on the road is what it is down the track, I'm all in for it.
Get a chance to show how good you are against Jeff and Scott.
Yeah, Bermudians love racing, right? Whether it's powerboats, they love our motorsports, powerboats, go-karting, motocross.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, it's just a chance to showcase our sport and to put on a show for Bermudians. I mean, when we had the Dockyard races, we were having upwards of 5,000 people a day come to watch us. So I think the Bermudians, they want to see more of that. So we're going to do everything we can to make it possible next year, next season.
Now that this season's wrapped up, what plans are in place for next season? Obviously, you want to hope COVID-free, allowed to just race your races. But what plans would you guys have? Early plans would you have for next year? for next season?
Our kind of like our, not, I wouldn't say main focus, but our eyes are definitely on our junior program. We started this year. The club was able to purchase 4 cadet carts. So basically bringing the mountain to Muhammad in a sense. A lot of parents and families can't afford the go-kart or have the garage or have the trailer. So we had an interest from some parents and kids that they wanted to get in and kind of see if their son or daughter was interested in racing. So the club made the investment, got the cadet cards, and thanks to our membership, really giving us some good prices on them. And we were able to get 4 kids down there, even though it was with COVID. It kind of messed up their seat time in a sense because we were restricted with the numbers. But that's our main focus. We do have to have an AGM again, so hopefully we're lucky enough to be in the positions that we're in as we were this year. But that's our focus, to kind of really concentrate on getting some more of the kids out there, younger kids involved, and get them coming up through the ranks. Because I mean, even Blake's one of our young kids, came up through the ranks as junior driver and now as a senior driver. So that's kind of where we're focusing our eyes on for the up and coming season.
Jay?
Yeah,
Okay, well, we had this conversation, guys. We went to watch powerboating over the weekend, and we had a conversation amongst ourselves. So we're going to settle this whole issue right now, Earl. We have 3 drivers in front of us. Each one of you drivers, would you rather be in front or would you rather chase?
Actually, we were talking about this on Monday.
Yeah,
I'd
Blake,
rather
you can kick
be
it
Yeah,
off.
Blake, you go ahead.
You can kick it
That's
off.
all because as proven, if I don't know if you guys heard about last race day, but I led pretty much each shift of race. I led the majority of the laps, and within the last 2 or 3 laps, I got overtaken. So it's definitely, I got more of an incentive being behind somebody, because you can brake a little harder and later going in the turns, and you can push a little bit harder than the person that is leading the race.
Next.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I guess it depends on what class I'm racing, but I've always been a chaser and a racer. I hate qualifying. I've never done well with qualifying because I get bored just driving around by yourself. I like to chase someone. Obviously, I want to be leading when the last lap comes. But during the race, yeah, I like to chase. I kind of get bored leading races. Obviously, I'll never give it up if I'm in the lead. That's a good place to be. But yeah, I've always had more fun chasing.
Yeah. So like I said, it was funny. We talked about this on Monday evening. I'm kind of the same thing. My lap times, we have a lap, like a tachometer in the middle of the steering wheel. My lap times tend to be more consistent when I'm chasing. It takes a different mindset, a different focus when you're up front. Because yes, you got that kind of in the back of your head. You can kind of hear that other guy. He might show you the nose a little bit, and that kind of plays on your mind a little bit and kind of break your focus. So it takes a little different mindset when you're leading the race. And I know Scott has, I know Blake has. I just find that lap times and consistency for me, I like to chase. But at some point in time, you got to be able to analyze your opponent and be able to get it, tuck it down in there, sit down on the inside, and like Blake said, and overtake in like the last lap, because the checkered flag is the main goal, right?
I've even had Scott. I had Scott a few seasons back when I was competing against him for a championship. I led the whole race. I think like 2 or 3 turns before the checkered flag, Scott dove down the inside of me and won the race.
Yeah.
So
it's patience too, right?
Don't get me wrong. I have no problem leading the whole race.
Yeah.
I have more fun chasing.
Yeah.
Scott really likes, and most of them really like to put their nose up behind the other car on the straight and push it along, and then decide, you know what? Okay, I'll see you later. I see that too often.
Yeah.
But if you guys were to talk about the drafting rules? What are they in the sport?
So it all depends on what series you're in, what track you are really. Our track here, it's a decent sized track. But for the most part, drafting for us doesn't come into play unless we're using our whole straightaway. Our straightaway, I think, down Southside Raceway is just over 800 feet. So on a windy day and we're running the whole straightaway, it will definitely be a factor for sure. But for the most part, our track here, draft, doesn't play much into it. I mean, two carts pushing each other will always be faster than one.
Especially in the 206.
Yeah, especially in the
Sure.
206. But for the most part here, it's not a huge thing. Like I said, unless we're using the whole track, the whole straightaway, and it's a windy day. But I mean, overseas on some tracks, it's everything, right? It's a matter of being up front and staying up front. If you can stay in the draft, it's everything on certain tracks. So I think it just depends on the track and the conditions for sure.
And then for us, Earl, as on the rule side of things, we didn't do qualifying this last season. Just tried to switch it up a little bit, take it back to old school, pick a number out of a hat, and let's go have fun. Instead of making it so serious all the time, because qualifying racing is serious. There's a lot of guys out here. Myself, Scott, Blake, a lot of teams out there, we take it serious. You know what I mean? Even though we're down there for Sunday fun. But you're not allowed to draft during qualifying. So when there is qualifying that we've had for a few years, but not this last season, like I said, the race director will pay attention. The officials will pay attention. And you're not allowed to draft during qualifying. So if you find yourself running up along somebody, and you're coming down that front straight, you kind of want to, I don't know where the camera is. So if I'm behind somebody, I kind of want to break out off to one side. And then as the corner comes, you can tuck back in. But on the straights, you're not allowed to draft during qualifying.
All right. Any final questions, Jay?
Okay, guys. I have a young kid who's interested, who's been bugging me, want to drive. They go come down the track. You guys let them in for free. They eat all your food, but they want to be the next Scott. They want to be the next Blake. They want to be the next Jeff. How do you guys convince me to let my child race?
Well, number one, it's safer than motocross. So, so if he wants to do a motorsports, if he wants to do a motorsport in Bermuda, I mean, we have 4 of them, right? So we're safer than motocross. We're cheaper than powerboats. And we have more drivers than the motorcycle club. So, I mean, there's that. But, I mean, like Jeff said earlier, we have this rental program now for our juniors. That's something that we're keying in on. We have carts available for these kids to come in, race days. Everything's provided, safety gear. Basically, they just jump in and see if they like it. I know Powerboats has just started this program too. The key to any successful motorsports club is the juniors, right? Mm-hmm. So we're definitely focusing on getting more juniors involved. And like I said, we have these rental carts available. It's easy for the parents. They come down, everything's provided. It's safe. It's fun. I think Blake will attest that our atmosphere down at the karting club is like one big family. That's one thing I will say about the Bermuda Karting Club is that the atmosphere and the camaraderie is great. So yeah, it's a fun sport. It's a fun club. It's a family club. You just can't go wrong with Bermuda Karting Club. That's my pitch to you.
You got it.
But if I can say, one thing that we've tried to do this year also is because there is no more BAM anymore. There used to be Bermuda Association of Motorsports. I think that's what it was. And basically that was like a governing body, if you would, that would approach government. Now there's no more BAM. So what Scott and I did this year was come together with the other head committee members of motocross and the DMRA so that, we all can work together collectively. So even like Scott said, with the junior program with Bermuda Powerboat Association, pretty much all the motorsports, the 4 motorsports, there's some form of junior way for that child and parent to come in and kind of get your feet wet a little bit to see if that child likes that sport. You know what I mean? Because some might like boats, some might like bikes, some might like cars. So if I can speak for all the motorsports clubs in Bermuda, because I do, support your local motorsport. That's kind of like my like little jingle thing. But there's availability for all motorsports across the board here in Bermuda for juniors to get in. Parents likewise, like Jay said.
All right. Good stuff. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. And we look forward to your season schedule being released whenever that can happen. And we look forward to seeing you at the track for the next season.
Yeah, I think we're scheduled to go back racing September 12th off the top of my head. So we're looking forward to a short summer and to get back to racing.
All right.
Hopefully,
enjoy your evening.
Hopefully, COVID free.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yes, sir. All right. Enjoy your evening.
Thanks,
Well,
guys.
Thanks, man. Yes, Jay.
We're spotlighting our old friends Woodstock Farms, who started up 50 years ago in the belief that we need more trustworthy natural food sources. Starting with one product, their line, mostly certified organic, is now more than 250 strong in 10 categories. This month we're featuring accoutrements of the barbecue, for us the pinnacle of home cuisine and one of the few forms of restorative recreation now within our reach. Try Woodstock Organic Sweet Relish, Tomato Ketchup, Baby Kosher Dill Pickles, Sauerkraut, and Hickory and Original Barbecue Sauce. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
Well, Jay, it's been a very long day after a long night. I was kind of informed last night of the decision that came out of the Somerset Cricket Club that they declined the offer to play the annual Cup Match Classic. Kind of held on to it until this morning, released it this morning. It's been a buzz all day. As we said at the top of the show, the Somerset Cricket Club released a statement this afternoon. Let's just get a bit of the statement. It starts out by saying, Somerset Cricket Club deeply understand the historic and cultural significance of Cup Match. However, after much deliberation, the Somerset Cricket Club concluded that the health and safety concerns pertaining to COVID-19 pandemic and the lack of cricket impeding the integrity of this great event, recent announcements related to the pandemic, along with further delays to the start of the Domestic Cricket League, had informed the Somerset Cricket Club's position to respectively decline the official challenge letter from the St. George's Cricket Club. This letter serves as the precursor to any official cup match and is one of the deeply rooted traditions that govern the Classic. Just hearing that, Jay, let's get your early thoughts on the fact that Somerset have declined the invitation to play this year.
Well, Earl, we've been talking about this for a while now, and I think everybody knows my sentiments when it comes to Cup Match, what it means not only for clubs, but what it means to us as Bermudians, what it means to us as people, as why we actually celebrate Cup Match. So obviously disappointment in every sense that you can think of when it comes to hearing that once again, Cup Match will be canceled until the following year. Obviously last week, the two clubs have met with the membership, and the membership, for the most part, wasn't satisfied with the information being given. Or presented, I should say. They went back another week and still not satisfied with the information that was given. What I don't want to happen amongst our clubs is that we start picking at each other or blaming each other. A lot. If you go back and listen to any one of these stakeholders that were involved, let's put it out there. You spoke about it many times during the press conferences. I felt there was a lack of guidance leadership that was put amongst these clubs to try not to have the game, because we've always said there's a difference between the game and the event.
Mm-hmm.
Not only affecting the event itself, but also affecting cricket.
Yeah.
And I think all these layers have brought us where we are now. Because even if we look at the situation with Bermuda Cricket Board, having to now delay their start. Due to what again? The goalpost moving. Obviously, a lot of concerns. And I think it's easy for someone to just say, look, guys, just go there and play. It's so easy to do that. Oh, guys, it's all about money. Don't worry about that. It's so easy to do that when it's not your money.
Mm.
It's so easy. It's so easy to go out there and say, look, man, don't worry about this. Just go do it. Okay, so what happens if you turn up positive the day before? When you're in a rooming with, as we know, they room with players, with the teams together. What that means now, those two players out, how do you contact trace the day before, the breakfast before, the news conference before, the meeting they have at Camden House, the greeting, whatever they have at Camden House? That normally happens, what, on the Tuesday or the Wednesday? No, it's got to be
It's the Monday. It's the Monday. It's the Monday.
And we need to have no clear direction of what happens if something takes place. It's hard. It's hard to make that decision, man.
I mean, I think that could have been. I mean, you have a lot of time to work that out with what's going on. I think the first thing you want to make sure is that the event can take place. I think that will be the first and foremost. All the other stuff, the underlining stuff of
So back
what
up.
happened.
So let me get some clarity. When you say the event take place,
Cup match.
the game itself.
The game itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's the first thing you want to know whether or not that could take place.
Yes.
The stuff you're referring to is you set up a group of people who then put all those things in place. That's their job. Because see, there's no way you were going to be able to do that, do the club stuff, do the camp stuff, do all of the others, you know what I mean? So it's going to have to be done in different pockets. So you set up a group of people who will oversee what those regulations would look like, because obviously, clearly, the player regulation will have to change, because you're going to have to pick a little more. And we said this the other day, you're going to have to pick a little more than just the regular 12 and the 3 substitutes or reserves, because as we know, 9 times out of 10, of late, the reserves have been young kids. You know what I mean? So that whole mindset, you probably would have to have, what would they would call them, what, COVID subs? Because you need to see now in football, they have concussion subs, they have COVID subs, they have all these different things, because the times have created this mechanism to allow you to replace someone in the event that they test positive. Now, they would have to agree what happens when the game starts, because if the person tests positive on day 2, is that like an injury? You know, but that's something that could have been discussed between the two clubs on the playing side by a group of people. That takes care of that. The other thing would have to be taken care of would have been what requirements the health department had for the fans, the spectators, the vendors. You know what I mean? So you're getting guidance from them. Now, I don't know if this stuff was put out. I don't know. We don't know. We're only surmising because, you know, we got a little bit of information here and there out of the meetings. But I just think, one, it was tight to be open enough to put it on. The time frame was not a Warriors going to be on St. George's side. I guess they felt they could do whatever with whatever was going to be presented with them. They're in them sending the invitation, and the Somerset membership decided that they didn't think it was going to be safe for them to partake. But I'm a firm believer right now, Jay, that there's two clubs in Cup Match, but it's a country that is affected by Cup Match, right? And I think right now is the perfect time for maybe the two presidents, the two captains, the two coaches to sit down with somebody, a mediator of some sort, to discuss what the possibilities are. If not for this year, we need to move forward next year. And all this has to be cleared up because, believe it or not, there's going to be some frustration out there, whether it be from St. George's, whether it be from Somerset, whether it be from some players who felt this would have been the one and only opportunity to make the team. You know what I mean? They're going to feel like they're slighted. But it's a chance to mend fences. It's a chance to kind of set a new beginning, and now, we've heard a lot of stuff talking about players won't be fit enough to play. Well, now guess what? Next season, you all better be fit. All of you.
Where do you want me to start with that?
Think about it. Let's take a commercial break. We'll come right back.
John Barrett & Son, Bermuda's favorite distributor of fine beverages, has brought us a new and refreshing thirst quencher just in time for the approaching warm weather. Hint Water in 7 luscious flavors. Hint Water is slaking the thirst of active people who need pure hydration, low on the glycemic index, and want the kind of taste experience that keeps them coming back to try the next flavor. For those who've been giving water a miss, Hint may win you over. Hint Water. No sugar, no additives, all flavor. Lynn knows. Why go anyplace else?
Go ahead.
All right. So let me see what I got out of that and what it came out of that. Let's go back to your two clubs. So let's go back 365 days ago. We was hearing these same concerns.
Mm-hmm.
Brazil was in the same position, and I'm trying to grasp and understand. And obviously, until we get both clubs in the same room with a media, like you mentioned, what precautions or what did we learn from last year with preparation? And keep the word in mind because I'm going to use that later, preparation of the game. Your show, the cricket show on Sunday night with Doc Mendes and Dean Miners, and Dean brought up a to-do list of sorts
Mm-hmm.
that Molly Simons did many years ago when she was on the managing committee of Somerset Cricket Club. What the building up to the game would be, as far as months, the time period. I think we've come to the point now, especially with COVID, that a lot of time that we have volunteer committee members,
Mm-hmm.
we have to start a lot early. Your host club has to start a lot early. Because even prior to COVID and just being wearing another hat when it comes to the classic, it's come down to the last minute on many nights. Even I remember a few years ago, last minute with the tarpaulin, get to the island. Last minute of some other things get to the island, or whatever the case may be. So I think our timelines. She had mentioned that the club would normally start having talks September, October, and then start collaborating with the other club January, February. That leaves you only basically 6 months out. to prepare $1 million event. Now, keep in mind, let's look at the professionals. And I'm not saying we say this with athletes, even though you're not getting paid professional money, but you could take some habits from athletes or guidelines or things. So when we talk about those international sports that have come to the island, as we know, they are not being prepared within a 6-month time frame.
Mm.
So with these restrictions, the proper guidance, if the goalpost should happen to move, if the country status should happen to move, then you have options. You go to this option, rather it's 10,000 people a day, this what's going to be, 5,000 people scaffold, and how do we divvy it up amongst our membership, all those different things. Whereas we're almost cramming this, it's almost like cramming for a test, and the deadline's running. and we're just grabbing, we're just trying to find an answer, and it's not, and it's not being communicated well.
Right.
That's why I'm saying preparation. And I'm hoping that we don't even allow us to let this go until September, when we come back and start talking about Cup Match 2022. These talks need to be ongoing right now with government, with the health ministry, with the national security, because these international events, Earl, they are being approved on a later date that's projected to be better. We've seen events be approved when we're in a state of lockdown or whatever. But we're here waiting for comment. It seems like we're waiting to hear back.
You're trying to bring my pressure back up, isn't it? You're literally trying to bring my pressure back up.
Let's be real about it. We know these international, it's signed off already. Already, Earl.
But Jay, I keep telling you, we mean nothing. We mean absolutely nothing in sports in Bermuda.
So when will we speak up?
Yeah, when will we?
When will our administrators and our clubs speak up? Because they're the ones that can get all the flack today, as you've seen already.
Yeah.
They can get all the flack.
Yeah, the attention has gone from the people that delayed this, the inevitable, until the 13th hour. They take 3 steps back and sit there and say, well, hey, we told you can go ahead with it. And I said that to you about Carifta, and I said that to you about football.
And me, like the optimist I am, I want to know, Earl, you're wrong. We're going to have it. And I hate to say
we didn't do it. We told you you can go ahead and do it. But the challenges of what is in front of the people to put it on, and the time frame in which you get the approval to do so, creates this, what we have today. I mentioned to you earlier today in a conversation, there was a press conference yesterday for an event, an international event that is going to take place in October. So they've already been given the approval to do what they're going to do in October. But we waited after getting it on April 9th until April, and this is what the minister said last night in the press conference. When things were released on May 9th, after getting it April 9th, we finally got around to giving the host Cup Match Club the approval on May 25th.
So when are we going to cherish our main event of our culture? When are we going to cherish that?
It's not a concern. It's not a concern. It's sport.
But it's not sport. But we know it's not just sport. We know that.
But here lies the problem, Jay, and I keep telling you this, and you finally listen to me, and listen to me at least once, okay? The people that make these decisions look at it as a sport, yes, which comes down the line. That's the unfortunate thing. Sports is looked at down the line. Draw a reference to you. They had the National Junior Sponsorship Award for Sports on Friday. Wondering if you will ever see it on CITV. Hell, you won't even see it on local TV. You know why? Because it was sports and it was kids. They don't give two hoots about it.
We claim that as our natural resources. We claim
That's our future.
We claim that these kids don't have no pride. We claim that these kids, we don't have no culture. This is something, and I had this conversation today. This is something, Cup match, even though it's a cricket game, is a very unique game that nowhere else in the world plays this format. Nowhere else in the world has a 2-day holiday where they actually play this game. Nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Not India, not Australia, not England, not West Indies, nowhere. This is truly Bermudian. We could try to claim on Gumbes, and that's, as we know, that's has origins other places.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We claim pink sand, but we know there's pink beaches other places in the world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Kites, well, we know there's kites in other places in the world. Fish cakes, we know there's fish cakes. This is truly Bermudian.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't feel like we don't prioritize it as a country. And I'm going to say as a country because why are we down to the 13th hour to get approval? To get approval.
Let me go take my pressure pills, man.
And I say this because we're talking about a game that has 118-year history. I'm not talking about something just
starting. Mm-hmm.
Just started.
Mm-hmm. Hey, and actually took place during World Wars. World Wars couldn't stop Cup match.
So
think about it.
I've thought about it many times. I thought, hey, maybe you could double up next year because we played 2 games in the first year. So you know what? Let's have Cup match twice next year to make up. I mean, you know how my mind thinks. It's all, but before you can even go that, once again, these other events are getting approval.
Mm-hmm.
Months and months and months and months and months in advance, where we're waiting for somebody to pick up the piece of paper that's in the pile, at the bottom of the pile.
Because you can't tell me that Revolve thing got approved 2 weeks ago. That was months in the making. So I guess for the sporting bodies, my suggestion to all the sporting bodies that are watching out there, the local sporting bodies, contact the Bermuda Tourism Authority and tell them you want them to go and put in your bid for whatever you want to host, and it should get approved the next day because that's what it looks like.
I will hope that every sporting body asks the government agencies, what were the plans for the PGA, for the protocols, the golf, and all the international events, so now they have guidance to go off of them.
Mm.
So if they duplicate these plans, we should better have our event of some sort.
They won't be able to give them to you, but I can give you 3 letters. BTA, because they're allowed to do it. Listen, Jay, you know I'm close to this stuff. You know, I see they will just write in and get it approved, regardless of what it is. It's allowed to happen.
And under the auspices that it would be good for the country, right?
Yeah, well, you know that line this line they're always giving you this line. Well, you know, we will be seen in multiple countries around the world. It could possibly make us, it's an economic thing of millions of dollars. But if you ask them to break it down, they will tell you, or if you ask them, what is our return? They will never be able to tell you what it is. Because I've asked.
So why don't we come together as sports administrators, presidents, even the guys from Carter, we just had them on. We're talking about spreading so-called what it's going to do around the world. Why we're not promoting our own
Wow.
around the world?
One of the things.
We're so quick to promote somebody that comes here for X amount of days or X amount of hours,
Mhm.
and it wouldn't be a difference if it's Barbuda or Bermuda.
Yeah. One of the things I know for a fact, Jay, a lot of these sporting bodies depend on government grants,
And that's why they keep quiet.
and they don't want to be hindered because they say something about the government of the day.
And
That
guess
will
what? Let's bring it back to cup match. I wouldn't even be surprised if that has something to do with cup match.
maybe.
No, I don't know this from any club.
But it does put the people who work in the departments on a daily basis in a very difficult position because they are governed by the government of the day and are basically guided to do things in accordance to what they're instructed to do. So a lot of these sporting bodies choose to remain silent and take the pennies that are given as opposed to no pennies at all because they rebel. Now, here lies the thing that you're talking about. If they were to all come together and say, you know what, we want equality or we want better than anyone else. Us first. If we have to follow all these rules and guidelines, because that's what they're asked to do now. They have to do certain requirements. There are certain requirements needed to be a national sport governing body. But a sport can come to Bermuda and not be a member association of the local fraternity and be allowed to have their own thing here. Is that fair? There was a I don't want to be too derogatory, but there was a tennis tournament at a private hotel that was good for Bermuda. They said that these people came, stayed on the property, never left because everything was there. But their carrot was, oh well, we'll have Bermudians play, okay? But the Bermudian had to be a member of the USTA, and these people did not have to be a member of the BLTA. But they're playing in your country. I just don't get that. But it was supported by the BTA. So that's what you're going to get.
So what I'm hearing from you, which I've heard many times, the BTA have their own set of, I won't say rules, because it's not rules.
Yeah, because they don't follow rules.
The own set of exemptions.
Yes.
Compared to the local governing bodies.
Yes. Guess who the minister of that organization is?
Please tell me.
Please tell you.
Please tell me.
It'll be the one and only Premier David Byrd. He's the minister responsible for the Bermuda Tourism Authority.
So I'm going to state this again. I think the people of this country need to have clarity, not only what happened, but going forward. We need the both clubs, the Premier, the Minister of National Security, and the Minister of Health, everybody on one. Whether you want to have a town hall meeting, whether you want to make it a press conference on CITV, whatever way you want to make it. You want to have a Zoom session, whatever. There's no excuses nowadays because it's a Zoom session every week, I think.
Yeah.
And have some clarity. So both clubs will walk away after this week noon or next month noon what direction, because if feels like, once again, deja vu, 365 days ago. And who knows, will we be in the same position next year when Somerset is down to the 13th hour, wondering if Cup Match 2022 will take place because of restrictions of this nature, God.
Right. Now, let me ask you, did because there's a lot of talk online, so did Somerset forfeit?
Well, from what I understand, and this is why I'll go listen. From what I understand, there is a letter that has to be presented to the club for the challenge.
Yes.
Right? And what the clubs do will normally obviously deal with their team or their membership. And I think, the difference that we saw last year, that we heard that a decision was made without membership.
Membership, yes.
Having clarity.
Yeah, the decision to cancel the game was made without the
right.
Yeah.
And I think that was taken into consideration. We knew there was members, and we knew there wasn't a good consensus last week.
Right.
So once again, I don't want to get into blaming.
Yeah, right.
Who's got the hot potato? Who's got the hot potato? Because right now, Cup Match is done.
Yeah.
2021 is done. I'm not. It's over. We can be emotional, but on social media, tomorrow will be another story. So that's
Well, true.
So for me, how do we go forward? How does these other international? How do they do it? How do they do it? Because if they're allowed to do it, how do they do it? I want to know the exact plan how they did it. Tell me, because you brought up a very important question. I told you today, the press conference yesterday. You brought up a very important question, but I feel it's probably 3 to 4 weeks too late. Because during that time, the press conference, people are probably getting ready to go to those meetings, those club meetings.
Right.
Do you want? I don't want to take your words out of context. Do you want to repeat the question to the Premier?
No, the question was if our numbers are going in the same direction, meaning very low cases, is there a possibility that the number of people allowed at Cup Match would be increased?
Do you know how powerful that thing? Because see, it's not just that person being in the stands, but remember the protocols that come along with those persons, the vendors who look for multiple persons, the money side of it, because now you got to supply more of this or more of that, all these different things. So the goalposts could change.
Oh yeah.
Right. So take for instance, the clubs could have said, well, you know what, this is even when it comes down financially, because we know these clubs depend on Cup Match survival.
Right.
Does that club go in financial ruin because we're doing it just because and we're losing so much money? So what happens with our programs throughout the year for our community? It's so many layers to this. My point is, Aaron, I'll get back to it again. Cup Match 21 is done. I hate to say it, but that's the reality. We have to right now start working on Cup Match 2022. And that's not, I don't like, you mentioned the players. We get back to the players. Don't tell me you want to start training. If you want to be a Cup Match player or an elite player, don't tell me you start training after football season's over in May.
But that's normal.
I know that's normal.
Yeah.
But I don't want to hear about quality. We're going to sacrifice quality because you're not going to get quality when you're only trying to do maybe 2 months of actually seriously training. That's not how you get quality.
Yeah.
And you can go back to some of the coaches of the heyday or as you are St. George's boy, when St. George's had that good league run in the 90s. I know for a fact that they were training probably Christmas or right after. I knew January they were definitely training.
Yeah. Yeah.
So most teams were training, and that was just to hold the quality that they had there because of the competition.
Right.
And the thing is, you knew that another team was training.
Doing the same thing. Yeah. Yeah.
And I say this, sir, because yes, nowadays we probably got more distractions. We got more sports who are looking to play longer seasons.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, if we're talking about the national sport, there's not if you're asking for national commitment by the government,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna have that same energy. And we have that keep that energy, the same energy from the participants who played in our cup match.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, any final words?
Please, once again, I would love to have the presidents on this program, along, not just by themselves, along with the premier, because you know he has many hats, health officer or somebody to represent the health ministry, a national security minister, and let's have a think tank how we can assure our Bermudians that we can have Cup Match 2022. Because all these nice slick statements, how much it means to us, well, it's so easy for us to let it go.
Mm.
And I don't want that history be remotely eroded or just feel like we're giving, I don't want to say giving up, but we're giving in.
Yeah.
Us leaders, the leaders of the clubs, the leaders of the communities, has to speak up, without being afraid of being
penalized. Mm.
Tell me your last thoughts. Let me go. Let's switch it up. Tell me your last thoughts, Earl B.
Island Stats be off the air next month.
Thank God this is internet. Thank God it's internet.
Hey, they'll find a way, mate.
Hey, before we go, Earl, and before we go, I think it would be remiss of us if we don't say thank you to the administrators of both clubs, especially when they host these things. Once again, numerous hours of people volunteering their time away from their families to pull something like this event off. And I just want to say thank you. Please, and I'm saying please, as we say in cricket, stick to the wicket, because this is not the time. We need to have bring a new blood in and try to teach them right now. This is not that time. We need to get this back right.
But on that note, Jay, let me just say, and I've said this for years, all those people out there on social media that are making recommendations and pointing fingers and all that, you're just a membership away from making a difference within the club. So if you want to be outside and talk, your words mean absolutely nothing until you actually get on the inside and make those words reality. So if you're going to do anything,
you can make those people in those positions accountable by a very democratic process, we call voting. And then when you're in that position, you will be, hopefully, you're at that round table to make those differences, or bring those opinions that you have so strongly you have on social media to the table.
Yeah.
But it's unfortunate. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see it battled out in social media. That is not
well, for the administrators of both clubs, they could ignore social media.
Yes.
They could literally ignore it.
Yeah. And
people can get personal, and that's the way it's gonna go. That's the way it has already started to go. And you get fueled by different reports and different things. Guaranteed. This will be the headline until Monday. It'll be a different angle tomorrow, and another angle the next day, and another angle the next day. So all those sports that we're getting covered, trust me, your days, well, they'll just copy it. They'll just copy what we've been doing all this time. So.
See, Earl, it's low. So we need to go, but even this aggravates me, right? We mentioned about those international sports that come in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do they have that impact on the economy here as far as that the day of the event, as far as grocery shops, as far as clothing shops, as far as people working, people buying stuff?
Let me just say this.
What do you call what they call it? The buying power?
Yeah. Let me just say this. When a professional athlete comes to the island and they're in their quote unquote bubble, yes, they go to their event and go back to their hotel. That talk of, well, they're in our grocery stores, they're in our shops, they're in our, remember the triathlon had those places closed during that event, right? Remember Front Street? The only places that were open were the bars and the restaurants, yes? So when you start talking about how, and people fall into that, oh yeah, they'll be in our stores and they'll be in, they can't afford what we pay. Jay, they bring their stuff, their athletes, they bring their gel packs. They bring if you were to ask one of our elite athletes if they were going from where they stayed to a place for a competition weekend, what they had in their bag, everything they need is in their bag. Their gels, their snacks, they might eat at the hotel, something different, but everything they need, they're carrying it with them. They might only need hot water or cool water or just a refrigerator. That's the athlete.
And stated many times by economists, even by the premier many times,
Mm-hmm.
or Minister of Finance many times, Cup match is the time where the most money is being circulated
in this country. Yeah. Well, I'll talk to you from another place.
Well, hopefully, Earl, our next show, we will have some good news about Eastern County.
Yeah, well, let me not. Yeah, okay, and let's hope. We can only hope. But ain't that 2 weeks before?
Hey! Stop!
Just making. I'm just checking. Literally, I'm just checking.
Stop!
Okay, all right. Have a good night, man. Have a good night. I'm gonna take my pressure pills.